Hey readers, I'm so excited. Today we get to finish Dolphins at Daybreak by Mary Pope Osborne. We've been reading this fictional text for a few days now, and we finally get to see the ending. We know we've been practicing finding character motivation. What is character motivation? Can you tell me? Yeah, character motivation is the reason why a character does something. We've been doing an awesome job of finding why our characters do things. Last time, you guys figured out why Jack shut his eyes and waited for the worst to happen. We know he did that because we had read in the text, had a hammerhead just come up? So we knew he'd been waiting for that, and he just didn't want to watch to see if there really was a shark and if something bad was going to happen. He wanted to be safe with his eyes closed. So that's why Jack did that. I'm going to pick up there so that you can figure out what happened. So Jack waited, and finally he opened his eyes. In front of him was a shiny gray head, a dolphin's head. The dolphin pushed Jack with its nose. It made happy clicking sounds. Hooray! Cried Annie. Jack looked over at her. She was clinging to the fin of another dolphin. Her dolphin was moving through the water. Then Jack grabbed the fin of his dolphin. Then the two dolphins swam smoothly through the water, pulling Jack and Annie towards the reef. Wow, that looks like so much fun. I'm super excited that the dolphins saved Jack and Annie. Now we're moving on to chapter 9. Chapter 9 is called Ouch. The sun shone on the ocean. It sparkled like a diamond. Jack felt safe now. His dolphins were taking good care of him. The dolphins slowed down as they neared the reef. Jack lowered his feet. He felt the bumpy coral. He let go of the dolphin's fin and stood up in the water. Annie stood too. Then she threw her arms around the dolphin and gave her a big hug. "Thank you, Suki," she cried, and she kissed the dolphin's nose. Suki tossed her head and clicked at Annie. "Kiss Sam now," Annie said to Jack. "You're nuts," said Jack. But Sam nuzzled Jack's head, and then he put his flippers around Jack's neck. Jack couldn't resist. He threw his arms around the dolphin and gave him a quick kiss. Sam nodded and made clicking sounds like laughter. Then he turned to Suki. Well, why couldn't Jack resist throwing his arms around the dolphin and giving him that quick kiss? Why couldn't Jack resist that? Well, we know that Jack now felt safe, and that we read that the dolphin was taking care of him. That lets us know that Jack feels thankful and is happy to be with the dolphins, and we know Jack wants to tell the dolphins that he is grateful. So Jack decides to do that by giving him that hug and quick kiss. So the two dolphins chattered to each other for a moment. They nodded at Jack and Annie and swam gracefully away. "Bye, Suki. Bye, Sam," Annie shouted. "Thanks," shouted Jack. The dolphins leapt high into the air, and then they dove back into the water with a splash. Jack and Annie laughed. "I wish we could swim like that," said Jack. Jack and Annie watched the dolphins until they disappeared. "I miss them already," Annie said softly. "Me too," said Jack. Why does Annie say, "I miss them already"? Let's think about what Annie is feeling and what Annie is wanting. We know that Annie's feeling so grateful for the help that the dolphins provided, and we know that it says Annie and Jack watched the dolphins until they disappeared. That lets me know that they want to remember how much the dolphins did for them and how thankful they are. He sat down in the shallow water. "I'm really tired," he said. Annie sat beside him. "Me too," she said. The warm water lapped around their shorts and t-shirts. Jack pulled off his pack. He took out his glasses and put them on. They were blurry with water. "Guess what?" said Annie. "What?" said Jack. "I saw the shark when we were swimming. Annie said, but I didn't tell you. I wanted you to stay calm. That's such a great big little sister move of Annie. I'm proud of her. Jack stared at her. I saw it too. I just swam faster so you would swim faster. And I swam faster so you would swim faster, said Annie. Sounds like they were both doing something to protect one another and help them stay calm. I guess we swam double fast then, Jack said. He shook his head with wonder. What now? Said Annie. We go home, said Jack. But we haven't solved Morgan's riddle yet, said Annie. Jack sighed. He pulled his notebook out of his pack. It was soaked. He pulled out the ocean book. It was soaked too. We failed, he said. My research is all wet. We'll never be master librarians now. Jack put everything away. Let's go, he said sadly. Wait a minute, why does Jack put everything away? Why does Jack put everything away? Well, we know he said, we failed, he said. My research is all wet. We'll never be master librarians now. So Jack thinks that he has no chance of getting the riddle and becoming a master librarian. He just wants to give up and go home. So he puts everything in his bag to get ready. Do we think that's showing endurance? No, something got tricky and Jack's trying to give up. That doesn't show endurance. Ouch, said Annie. They started to walk across the pink reef and towards the treehouse, and Annie followed. Well, ouch, said Annie. What's wrong? Jack looked back. I stepped on something. Annie bent down to rub her foot. What? Said Jack. A shell? Yeah, this. And she picked up a large gray shell. Boy, is it rough. Rough and gray as a rock, and plain as plain can be, said Jack. They had found the answer. The shell looked like a clam shell, only bigger and with more ridges. How could this ugly shell be the answer to the riddle? Said Annie. What about the part that says there's great beauty in me? Wait, research, said Jack. He opened the soaked ocean book. There he goes again, looking for more information and opening back up that book. The pages were stuck together, but he was able to turn a few. He found a picture of the gray shell. He read, divers search for oysters in deep water, but sometimes oysters wash up in reefs or beaches. Inside oysters, you can find does anyone know? You can find a pearl. The pearl's natural beauty makes it a treasure. It must have a pearl inside of it, said Jack. Annie peered into the crack between the two halves of the shell. I can't see anything, she said. How does the pearl get in there anyway? There they are, looking at the new shell that they found, trying to search for that pearl. Jack read aloud from the wet page. Sometimes a grain of sand will get between the oyster's shell and its skin. This irritates the oyster, so it makes a pearly material to surround the grain of sand. In this way, over a few years, a pearl is formed. I can't tell if there's a pearl in there or not, said Annie. Maybe we should bang it against a rock, said Jack. Now that would really irritate the oyster, said Annie. Yeah. Well, maybe we should leave it alone, said Annie. She gently put the oyster back into the water. But how will we know if oyster is the right answer to the riddle, said Jack. Morgan said, well, no, said Annie. Come on. Jack pushed his glasses into place, and then he and Annie picked up their shoes and socks. They climbed through the window of the treehouse. Morgan's scroll was lying on the floor. It was open. Look, said Annie. She and Jack stared at the scroll. The riddle had faded away, and in its place was one shimmering silver word. Oyster. Morgan's magic, whispered Annie. Jack let out a huge sigh. We got it right, he said. And here's the Pennsylvania book, said Annie. Let's go home. She opened the book. She pointed to a picture of Frog Creek Woods. I wish we could go there, she said. The wind started to blow. The treehouse started to spin. The wind blew harder and harder. Everything was still. Absolutely still. Chapter 10. It's called The True Pearl. Dawn light slanted into the treehouse. No time had passed at all since they'd left. Day was breaking. Jack rolled up the ancient scroll. He tucked it into the corner. We solved the first riddle, he said. 3 more to go. I don't see another scroll, said Annie. Maybe tomorrow we'll get the next riddle. That's okay, said Jack. I think I need to rest and dry out. His t-shirt and shorts were still soaked. His backpack too. Only his shoes and socks were dry. And this needs to dry out too, said Annie. She put the wet ocean book in a patch of sunlight. Then Jack and Annie climbed down the ladder. They walked through the woods, through leafy shadows and golden light. They left the woods and started down their street. You know, we should have found the answer to the riddle right away, said Jack. The oyster was on the reef all along. I know, but we wouldn't have had so much fun, said Annie. Fun, said Jack. You call being squeezed by an octopus and chased by a shark fun? Don't forget the dolphins, Annie said simply. Jack smiled. Right, he said. The dolphins made up for everything. They were fun. I guess they were the true pearl and the oyster, said Annie. Yep, said Jack. I wonder what Sam is doing right now. Sam? Annie grinned at him. You're nuts, she said. They climbed their steps and went into their house. We're back, Annie shouted. Did you get your shoes wet? Their mom called. Not one bit, said Jack. Then he and Annie slipped up the stairs to change their clothes. Here are Annie and Jack walking back to their house from the magic tree house. So now my thinking job for you scholars is to figure out, why does Annie say, don't forget the dolphins, to Jack? So go back and think about, what does Annie want and how does Annie feel? That way you'll be able to figure out, why does Annie say, don't forget the dolphins, to Jack? When you guys are answering, make sure you include the character's name, the character's wants, and your text evidence. I had such a great time reading Dolphins at Daybreak with you. This is a series, so if you wanted to read other Magic Treehouse books, you could go find those to read all on your own. I hope that you guys enjoyed reading the story as much as I did. Bye!